Welcome back to our Lions Walk. Some fans aren't happy. Darren says, we were not very good. We relied on set pieces, but nothing new under Neil Harris. We've got no pace, no width, and not a clue going forward. Why have we signed Aziz and Langstaff if you don't know what to do with them or how to play to their strengths? Lucky for us, we've got Callum back to ask him whether that's nonsense, whether there's been too much of a knee-jerk reaction to this, or whether it's time Neil Harris starts including players and playing them in the right way. Welcome to our Lions Walk.
No one likes us! No one likes us! No one likes us! We don't care! We are Millwall! So for Millwall! We are Millwall! From the dead!
Welcome back to our Lions Walk. If you haven't yet come across the channel, we review all 24 teams across the Terrace Talk network, and this is our Millwall 20-minute weekly podcast. New episodes released every Monday at 6. We know there's loads of other Millwall content you can watch, but this is the quickest and most comprehensive review of Millwall. Let's get straight into it. Callum, what went wrong against Luton? Go.
Do you know what? I actually thought we paid some decent stuff, to be honest, Mark. I've got to be honest. I think some fans are there's a bit mixed emotion, mixed opinions on it. Obviously, that comment at the start of the video was a bit. I get what people they're coming from, but I just think that these players we're only 5 games in, remember? So I think you've got to give players some time. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, looking at the stats today, like 11 more possession than Luton, 53%, I think it was. 11 shots. Obviously, we had that clear-cut chance with Langstaff, which he should have probably scored, but it was a great save by Kaminski. Some good, some good patterns of play I saw. So overall, I wasn't overly disappointed. I just think that Luton obviously got that goal and they defended really well on Saturday. I thought they were excellent. But yeah, I think we were unlucky. We could have scored a couple. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance on Saturday.
Okay, we're going to have a look at some social media takes in a second, but also coming up this week, we've got our QPR fans standing by as we look ahead to the Championship's only London derby in the fixture list, which is crazy. Only 2 teams in London in the Championship. So the London derby this weekend, we'll get a preview on that. We're also going to ask Callum for his view on left backs, as that's our next position we are reviewing, and we're asking you, who is your unsung August player of the month? Not your player of the month, we know who that is. We want the unsung heroes. Let's get straight into the social media takes first of all. There's a theme here, though. Callum, you will get to see that in a second. It's Coming Home says, I would like to see Harris make changes 10 minutes quicker than he does. Aziz and Scanlon looked really sharp, but we kept with the same 11 for 70 minutes despite it not working. He needs to be more willing to go for a plan B. Overall, not great, but there's clear signs of something positive there. Where do you stand on this substitutions not being made quick enough comment?
Well, I have said this before, haven't I, on the channel? And he does like to leave it quite late. But listen, I think you got to put it into perspective. I think we're still in the game. If he might have made a few changes earlier, it could have been different. But I think that we were in the game still and we were playing well with the players that started. I think the game in general, I think towards the first bit, we had a few good chances, but there wasn't that energy from the Sheffield Wednesday game where we obviously was really energetic. It's probably one of our best performances of the season, probably. But yeah, there was not really a lot of energy towards the start, which is quite surprising. So yeah, that could be one part. But then obviously he made some subs quite late on. Aziz came on. Obviously Langstaff had to come on because Coburn was injured, which is a real shame, and Cooper had to come off at half time as well. So yeah, hopefully they're not too bad because them two are very important for our team. So if they're not there next weekend, then we could be in a bit of bother. But no, I get what people are saying about Harris's substitutions. He does it quite a bit, but yeah, I think we'll just give him. I think people are being a bit too harsh. I think he's the right man for the right job. Just let him. He's been a manager for quite a while now, so I think people just need to calm down a little bit and just be on his side.
The player coming in for the most stick this week was Joe Bryan.
Yeah.
Can you understand why?
Yeah, he was quite bad yesterday. He made a few poor decisions and during the game. I think one of them was in the first half, and he had the ball on the left hand side, and he tried to cross it in, and then he's obviously taken too many taken a big touch. He's gone off for a goal kick, and all the fans were just at the goal. I mean, I sit in the Cobra lane, so it's right behind where he was, and he started looking at the crowd and started laughing. The crowd were just giving it to him non-stop. But yeah, to be fair, a few people have been saying bring Scanlon on instead. Which I'd like to see because I think he came on and done really well.
Okay. All right. One final one then before we jump onto QPR. James says we'll let a goal scorer midfielder in Fleming go on deadline day to have George Honeyman in his 30s as a replacement who isn't an attacking mid and didn't score one goal last season. Yet we have a 20-year-old Namaku who's an attacker and pace and flair and creativity. Yeah, Fleming's doing well. Certainly did all right in what I saw of the game this weekend. It was a head scratcher, that bit of business. Is it something you might come to regret?
For me, no. I think it was the right decision to let him go for that amount of money, 7 million. I think it's the right amount of money to let him go. I would have preferred him to go last season. Obviously, I watched the because it was on Sky Sports. I watched the game back, and Gary Wright was on the pundits, and he said that we could have had 11 million for him last season, which was quite surprising. And obviously, James Berylson put out a statement during, I think it was last week, about the business and a new sort of what they want to do. It's like sort of like the Brentford and Brighton, where they bring in young players and they want to sell them on for a larger fee. I like that. I think it will, in the long term, it will help us massively, especially if we're getting 7 million for Fleming at the end of this season. Potentially next season we could have quite a bit of money in the bank to compete with the top teams. But yeah, so I think with that Honeyman, I think Honeyman's done really well for us. I know he's quite old, but he presses, he works his socks off. He's done really well for the last 5 games of the season. And it's funny because I was watching one of the other podcasts on Millwall the other day, and they were talking about all the stats, etc. And we'll obviously the pressing has been one of our highlights of our season so far. So I think that if that keeps happening and it gets better, we should be fine. But I can see why people want Amaku. But like we said the other day, Amaku tried and played against Leyton Orient in the cup, and he didn't take his chance. I just think he's a super sub to bring on off the bench, in my opinion. I don't think he should need to start.
Okay. All right, we'll leave the Luton game there aside. I mean, apart from that, you have actually been doing quite well, hadn't you, in recent games? So you're allowed a blip. But your next trip then is to Loftus Road. Say for a Crunch London derby. Let's bring in our QPR fan and let's spice it up a little bit in here. Welcome, Jawad, to where the Lions walk from across the Terrace Talk Network. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, good. Explain to a neutral then. There's no love loss, obviously, between Millwall and West Ham and QPR, Brentford, but what's the relationship like between QPR and Millwall, Jawad? Is there a mutual understanding that you are, similar levels for quite a significant time, or do you hate each other?
I don't think there's that hatred that kind of runs in other derbies that we have. There's always a police presence. The reputation obviously goes before them sometimes. I don't think there's been much trouble with QPR in the last few seasons with Millwall. I think because of that, because of the kind of hassle in getting to the Millwall away game, especially, I don't think it's a derby that the QPR fans enjoy if that makes sense, because of the sort of stuff that is put in place off the pitch. So yeah, until you said earlier, I completely forgot that it's our only derby this season as well. So
Yeah, I think it's the only time in 11 years or something in this league anyway where there hasn't been at least three clubs from London, or with Luton and Watford in there as well. They don't count though. Okay, Callum, what's the Millwall view on QPR?
I just think there's not really that rivalry with QPR. Really, obviously we're London rivals, but I don't think there's that much of hatred between the two clubs. Really, I think it's been quite straightforward. I do like going to QPR on away days. It's one of my favourites because it's quite an old-fashioned stadium. I like going to old-fashioned stadiums. So I do like Loftus Road. I've been there a few times, but no, I think like what you just said, like I totally agree. It's not really that much hatred with Millwall and QPR really. Like other London clubs, especially like West Ham and Palace. But obviously we haven't played them for quite a while now, so you probably have to say QPR would probably be our rival now because obviously we've played them quite a few times over the last few years.
Yeah, 1900, the first meeting between these two in an FA Cup, so it's actually as old as Spurs and Arsenal is as a fixture, which is something, isn't it? Joward, you are one of the teams in the Championship where you are a different team at home than you are away from home. So at home, you expect this to be for QPR to go for the jugular, given how you know Millwall are going to play and he'll have his team is going to set up. You're going to have probably most of possession.
I think yeah. I think I read a stat yesterday. We've only lost 1 in 11 away from home. I think it was, but the home form for 2.5 years now has been so inconsistent and at times bordering on like kind of not being able to win a game. We've started this season. West Brom, obviously, first game was tough. Plymouth game, we should have won with the chances that we had. But I think it's the kind of game where if we don't score early, I think Mill will grow into it. I think they'll gain confidence, and our fans will start to get a little bit edgy. So I would have thought they'll try to make a fast start like they did against Plymouth, but after 15 minutes in that game, we kind of sat back again. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one for us.
Callum, on the road this year, you've had some interesting performances, to say the least. How do you see this one going in terms of how he sets them up?
Not sure. I think if he probably might play the same 11, depending on how Coburn and Cooper are getting on with their injuries. So he might change it a little bit. He might bring Hutchison back into the back four. He might play Langstaff for his first start in the league. But yeah, I think, I don't know, QPR is always a hard away game to go to, isn't it? So I'd back us to win, but I probably would say 2-1. But I reckon it could be a draw.
Yeah, 2-0 to both of you, wasn't it? Last year it was 2-0 at home.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And
the away game, they destroyed us, and there's a couple of players that played in that game that kind of Marty saw and didn't touch again with the barge pole. We were awful. I would say that's by far the worst we played under him. Dreadful performance.
And then there was a bit of a 6-pointer, wasn't it, earlier in January, where you then did the 2-0 reverse to them back. Okay, then. Well, listen. Enjoy the game. Thank you, Jared. Just give us a quick score prediction. We've heard 2-1 from Callum.
I don't like predicting victories for QPR, as you know, from the last year and a bit. I think surprised at how many goals Millwall have scored actually this season. Kind of 3 at Bristol City, 2 against Watford, 3 against Sheffield Wednesday. I think let's go exciting 3-2 victory for us.
Hey, very good.
Yeah.
It was 0-0 for Millwall last on the travels up at Hull, so let's see for a bit more entertainment, shall we, this time. Thank you very much, Jared, for joining us.
No problem.
Appreciate that. Okay. Callum, let's get some left backs reviewed, shall we? All right then. So, where do you think the club sits in terms of strength and depth? I know not all of these will ever play left back on here, but this is an area you've got quite a bit of depth in, isn't it?
Yes. Well, when the window opened, this is one of the positions that I wanted us to get some replacements in for, just in case Joe Bryan gets injured, because he got injured last season and he had to play, and Danny McNamara played there for the majority of the season. So yes, I think Scanlon is a great loan signing for us. He's had a little bit of come on for about 10-15 minutes against Luton on Saturday. Thought he played really well. Thought he did well. But yeah, Murray Wallace, even though he's been there for a long time, I don't think he's at the level of the Championship. I don't want to really say that because I love Murray Wallace, but I don't think he's Championship level. I think he's more League One level, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, as you said, we've got Danny McNamara that can play there from right. He's normally a right back, but he can play left back as well. Murray Wallace, Wes Harding can play there apparently as well, which didn't know that. Normally likes to play in central defence, so in the middle. But yeah, no, we've got good depth. Just hopefully that we have 0 injuries in defence, because otherwise we might be in a bit of bother.
Yeah. I mean, it's not one. I mean, we'll look at right backs next week, and that's a whole different story, isn't it? I think when we look at that. But in the comments below, we'd love you all to come up with who's the best left back there's ever been at Millwall. Maybe Callum can give his thoughts on that at the end. Before we get to that, though, and please put your comments below. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get 50 this week. We're heading in the right direction. We know there's tons of brilliant Millwall podcasts out there, but ours is the shortest. You can listen to this while you're making your lunch at work or travelling home waiting for the bus. Wouldn't you listen to Callum's dulcet tones? Our last point on the agenda this week then is Callum. We're looking for the unsung heroes, if you don't mind, of the Millwall team. We've obviously heard a lot about the players that did get the official club's man of August. But who for you hasn't stood out but really should?
I would go for Casper Denor. I think he's been a revelation for us this season. I remember back. I think one of the first shows we did on the channel.
You did, didn't it? Yeah.
I think I might have said something bad about him in that video, but ever since the first game, I think just as you see the team building and playing more regularly, I think we're playing to his strengths really, really well, and he just dictating plays. Probably the technical player in that team, like gets on hold of the ball, finds passes. I think to be honest, Mark, I think we've done that quite well this season. We haven't really played it long, so like on Saturday we put it on the floor quite a bit, and I've never normally see that. Normally see obviously Mill quite direct, like loft the ball over to the striker. I think when Coburn came off, we probably didn't have that opportunity to put it over to him. So I think we played it really nicely on the floor. So Casper Denor for me has been a revelation this season so far.
Yeah, he's one of the most underrated players I thought of the Championship last season as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Great shout. Okay, right. Well, enjoy the London derby. Not too far for you to travel. This is not too many beers on the train for you, I'm afraid, this week. We'll catch you next week, and we're also, as we mentioned already, looking at right backs as well. Any ideas for the best left back of all time for Millwall before we go?
Oh, wow. I think Tony Cray's got to be up there.
Okay.
Tony Cray's got to be up there. Scott Barron. Scott Barron was very good
Shout, yeah.
for a large period of time. He's obviously got in the promotion team in 2009, 2010. Yeah, I think that's probably them two, I'd say.
Yeah, if you can beat that, you know what to do. Put it in the comments below. Yeah, two good shouts there. Absolutely.
Yeah, some of the other fans might go more further in.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. So
we'll get there. Right,
sorry
cheers,
if I missed
Callum.
anyone out. Cheers,
thanks,
thank you.
thanks for watching. We will see
Cheers.
you next week. Every Monday at 6 o'clock, brand new episode. Cheers, Callum.